While everyone's been obsessing over ChatGPT, China just quietly won the race for tomorrow's economy. And if you're building anything in robotics or AI right now, you might already be too late. Here's what nobody's talking about. There's an invisible war happening right now that's going to decide who controls the future of automation. And it's not being fought with code or robots, it's being fought with patents. China controls 70% of global AI patents. Think about that for a second. 7 out of every 10 AI patents in the world belong to Chinese companies and institutions. The US? Just 20%. And here's the kicker. For the first time in history, non-US entities now hold 56% of all US patents. That's not a trend, that's a takeover. If you're working in robotics, AI, or automation, this isn't just interesting news. This is the map that shows where the landmines are buried. Let me show you how deep this goes. In 2024 alone, China filed 300,000 AI patent applications. To put that in perspective, that's about 822 patents every single day. While Silicon Valley was celebrating another funding round, China was building walls around entire categories of technology. But here's where it gets interesting. Between 2014 and 2023, China generated 38,000 generative AI inventions. That's 6 times more than the US. 6 times. But before you panic, there's a twist. Volume doesn't mean victory. When you look at patent citations, which basically measure how important or groundbreaking a patent actually is, China's patents get cited way less. Translation? They're filing everything they can, but not all of it represents real breakthroughs. It's like the difference between writing 100 blog posts versus writing 10 that people actually read and share. Quantity versus quality. And that gap matters. Patent filings have been growing 15% every year since 2010. That's compound growth. That's the kind of hockey stick curve that keeps executives up at night, but it's not spread evenly. Some sectors are exploding faster than others. Agriculture robotics, up 200% since 2017. We're talking about AI-powered tractors that can identify individual plants, drones that monitor crop health, and robotic harvesters that pick fruit without bruising it. Precision farming isn't future tech anymore. It's patent-protected, present tech. Healthcare robotics jumped 80% in just 5 years. Surgical robots like the ones from Intuitive Surgical are performing millions of procedures. Diagnostic AI is reading X-rays faster than radiologists. And every single one of those innovations is wrapped in layers of patent protection. Autonomous vehicles grew 40% since 2016. Now, that sounds impressive until you realize it's actually slower than people expected. Why? Because the tech is harder than anyone thought, and the patent landscape is already crowded. Companies are spending more time designing around existing patents than actually innovating. Here's something that should worry you. The top 10 companies control 40% of all robotics patent filings. Think about what that means. 10 companies. 40% of all the IP. That's not a competitive market. That's an oligopoly in the making. And since 2020, more than 50% of all robotics patents involve AI components. AI isn't the future of robotics anymore, it's the present. If you're building a robot without AI, you're basically building a flip phone in a smartphone world. IBM used to be the king of this game. In the past, they were filing thousands of patents every year. In 2024, they filed 2,465 patents. That's a 32% drop. What happened? The giants are getting replaced by specialists, companies that focus on one thing and do it really, really well. Boston Dynamics for mobile robots, Intuitive Surgical for medical devices, NVIDIA for the computing power that makes it all possible. Follow the money and you'll see where this is heading. Robotic startups raised $7.5 billion in 2024. That's not hype money. That's serious institutional capital betting on a patent-protected future. Humanoid robots alone are projected to be a $7 trillion market by 2050. Yes, trillion with a T. But here's the thing. That money's only going to companies that can actually deliver products. And you can't deliver products if you're drowning in patent lawsuits. Look at the automotive sector. It accounts for 33% of all industrial robot installations in the US. Why? Because car manufacturers figured out early that robotics plus patents equals competitive advantage. They built moats around their assembly line technologies. Now everyone else has to license from them or invent something completely new. Let's talk about what's really happening with all these Chinese patents. 13% of China's AI patents are inactive. That means they're not being used, not being licensed, not generating revenue. They're just sitting there, taking up space in databases. Why file patents you're never going to use? Strategy. If you file broadly enough, you make it harder for competitors to innovate without running into your IP. It's like buying up all the land around a city. You might not build on it, but nobody else can either. Meanwhile, US companies are playing a different game. They're filing fewer patents, but each one is more carefully crafted, more defensible, more likely to generate licensing revenue. Quality over quantity. Asian companies now hold the majority of US patents for the first time in history. Read that again. Foreign companies own more US patents than American companies do. That's not just a statistic, that's a fundamental shift in technological power. And it's not just China. India saw a 56% average annual growth rate in generative AI patents. They're not playing catch up anymore. They're competing. Countries that were outsourcing destinations 20 years ago are now IP powerhouses. If you're building in this space, your product roadmap can't ignore the patent landscape anymore. You can't just build what's technically cool or what users want. You have to build what's legally possible. Before you write a single line of code or machine a single part, you need to search existing patents. Google Patents, USPTO database, WIPO Global Brand Database. These aren't optional resources, they're survival tools. File defensively. Even if your MVP isn't ready, patent your core algorithms and unique hardware integrations early, because once you publish or demo something, you've started the clock. In most countries, you have 1 year to file. After that, it's public domain. Monitor your competitors, set up patent alerts for every major player in your space. When they file something new, you need to know immediately, because that filing tells you where they're going next, what problems they're solving, what gaps they see in the market. Build around, not through. If there's an existing patent that covers what you want to do, don't try to fight it. Design a different technical approach. Innovation isn't just about making something better. Sometimes it's about making something different enough to be legally distinct. Think about geography. File patents in the countries where you'll manufacture, not just where you're headquartered. A US patent doesn't protect you in China. A Chinese patent doesn't protect you in Europe. Global markets require global IP strategies. Sometimes licensing is cheaper than innovating around a patent. Run the numbers. If paying a licensing fee lets you ship faster and avoid R&D dead ends, it might be the smart move. And document everything. Every design decision, every experiment, every failed prototype. If someone challenges your patent later, detailed R&D records can prove you invented it independently. Prior art defense isn't sexy, but it saved companies billions in litigation. Here's something most people miss. Universities are patenting foundational AI and robotics technologies before companies can commercialize them. Research labs are smarter about IP now. They know that a patent filed today could be worth millions in licensing tomorrow. If you're partnering with a university or hiring researchers, make sure you understand who owns the IP they're creating. Because if the university owns it and you've built your entire product on it, you've just handed them leverage. This isn't a patent war, it's a patent arms race, and it's already decided which companies will control tomorrow's automated economy. The question isn't whether you need a patent strategy. The question is whether you can afford not to have one. Patent portfolios are competitive moats now. IBM's 1,000 plus robotics patents aren't just for protection, they're for licensing revenue and strategic partnerships. Every major player is thinking the same way. So ask yourself, are you building around patents or building into patent walls? If you want to stay updated on how this story develops, make sure you're subscribed because this is far from over.